Before the fury, before the sagas, there was a land of ice and shadow, Scandinavia. Long before the word Viking struck fear into the hearts of men, this was a world forged by unforgiving elements. Fjords, like icy scars, cut deep into the land, flanked by mountains that scraped the heavens. Dense, dark forests sprawled for untold miles, home to ancient spirits and predators that stalked the perpetual twilight. The sea, a relentless, churning beast of gray and white, was both a provider and a destroyer, its storms capable of swallowing ships whole. This was not a land that nurtured, it was a land that tested, that culled the weak, that demanded resilience in the very marrow of your bones. Survival here was a daily battle against cold, hunger, and the gnawing darkness of the long winter. The people who clung to this harsh coastline lived in small, tight-knit communities. Their world was the village, a cluster of longhouses huddled together for warmth and protection against the howling winds and whatever lay beyond the firelight. Society was built on the unshakable foundation of the clan, the family. Kinship was everything. You were your brother's keeper, your cousin's shield. To be an outcast, to be without a clan, was a fate worse than death itself. It meant facing the brutal wilderness alone, a death sentence delivered by starvation or frost. Life revolved around this communal bond, a shared struggle that forged loyalties as strong as iron. They worked together, hunted together, and fought together, their lives intertwined in a complex web of obligation and honor. At the heart of each village stood the chieftain. He wasn't a king in a distant castle, but a leader who had earned his place through strength, wisdom, and the respect of his kin. He was the chief judge, the war leader, the one who mediated disputes and ensured the clan's prosperity. His longhouse was the largest, the center of village life, where feasts were held, stories were told, and the fate of the community was decided. And woven through every aspect of their lives were the old gods. Their rituals were not performed in grand temples, but in sacred groves, by bubbling springs, or on wind-swept hilltops. They made offerings to Odin for wisdom in battle, to Thor for protection from storms, and to Freya for fertility of the land and of their people. These weren't distant deities. They were an active, powerful presence in their world, their whims shaping the very fabric of existence. But beneath this veneer of communal strength, a deep and relentless pressure was building. The core problem was a simple, brutal equation. Too many people, not enough land. The thin strips of arable soil nestled between the fjords and mountains could only support so many. The forests were vast, but farming them was a backbreaking, often fruitless endeavor. This scarcity bred a fierce competition for resources. By law and tradition, the eldest son inherited the family farm, the ancestral land, the future. This was a practical necessity, designed to keep the farm intact and productive. But what of the others? What of the second, third, or fourth sons? They would watch their older brother become the head of the family, while they were left with nothing. No land, no inheritance, no clear path to a future of their own. They had their strength, their skill with an axe and a shield, and a burning, insatiable hunger for a different kind of wealth, honor. In a world where your standing was everything, to be a landless man was to be a man of no consequence. This generation of younger sons was a powder keg of ambition and frustration, waiting for a spark. And then the spark came. Not in the form of a new god or a great war, but from the hands of shipwrights working in the misty fjords. They were masters of wood, their skills passed down through generations. But now they achieved a breakthrough. A technological leap that would change the world forever. It was the birth of the longship. The process was an art form. It began with the felling of a perfect oak, its trunk long and straight, destined to become the keel, the vessel's very spine. With axes and adzes, they shaped the wood, their cuts precise and practiced. They learned to split, not saw, the timbers for the hull, creating flexible, overlapping planks, clinker building. That gave the ship both strength and a unique lightness. They sealed the gaps with tar and animal hair. They raised a single tall mast for a square sail and carved rows for dozens of oars. This wasn't just a boat, it was a masterpiece of engineering. Shallow of draft, it could navigate rivers deep into foreign lands. Light and swift, it could cross vast stretches of open ocean. It was a tool of exploration, a vessel of trade, and a weapon of terrifying potential. It was the key that would unlock the world. The creation of these new ships sent a ripple of excitement through the coastal villages. The landless, the ambitious, the young men with nothing to lose and a world to gain saw their chance. The air grew thick with a new tension. You could see it in their eyes as they gathered on the shorelines, their gazes no longer turned inward to their own scarce lands, but fixed on the endless horizon of the Western Sea. The stories told around the fire at night began to change. Whispers of lands across the water, lands with richer soil, with undefended monasteries filled with gold and silver, began to circulate. It was a world they had only heard of in fragmented tales from the few traders brave enough to make the journey. A world that was, by all accounts, ripe for the picking. For men with no future at home, the sea was no longer a barrier. It was a pathway. It was a promise of wealth, of glory, of a saga that would be sung for generations. The choice was simple. Stay and serve your brother, or risk everything for a chance to carve your own destiny. The day finally came. Along the shores, the new longships were pushed from the beaches, their sleek hulls kissing the cold salt water for the first time. The men, armed with axes, shields, and a desperate courage, boarded the vessels. There were no tears, only the grim determination of men who had made their choice. Oars were set, the great square sails of red and white were unfurled, catching the wind. With a final push, they were away. The final image is one of haunting power. The prow of a longship, its dragon head carved with menacing detail, slicing through the grey waves. Its eyes are fixed on the west, on an unknown future. The ship is not just a vessel of wood and sail. It is a vessel of ambition, of frustration, of a people pushed to the edge. They are heading into the unknown, a storm of their own making, ready to be unleashed upon an unsuspecting world. The age of the Viking has begun,